In the mountain village of Lourdes, did a young peasant girl really see a vision of the Virgin Mary? A vision resulting in the discovery of miraculous waters? Can modern medicine explain the seemingly inexplicable when reason and religion collided over a century ago?
Before we unlock the future, we must find the keys to the past. I'm Leonard Nimoy. Join me and open the door to ancient mysteries beginning now.
For over 150 years, pilgrims like these have been making the journey to Lourdes, a small town in southern France. They come each year by the millions. Most are Catholic, but many are not. They come not only to pray, but often to seek a miracle. For Lourdes has been called a city of miracles, where the blind are made to see, the deaf to hear, and the lame to walk. Reports of miracles started in 1858 at a riverside grotto where pigs once grazed. Here, a young peasant girl named Bernadette claimed to have seen a vision of a mysterious lady. The lady revealed a spring, whose waters, say many, can heal the sick and the dying. Do the waters of Lourdes contain mysterious properties able to heal? What makes so many people ready to believe, even when science is hard-pressed to explain the seemingly inexplicable? Has God given the world a gift in a place called Lourdes? As the search continues to separate fact from faith, scholars, doctors, and even the Catholic Church remain divided over this city of miracles. For as many people are reported healed, many more are not. It remains a mystery, but one that doesn't stop the growing numbers of pilgrims from making the journey. Join us on our own pilgrimage to the sacred waters of Lourdes. She is 14 and from a poor family. She's often hungry and suffers from asthma. Work instead of play has filled her childhood. She cannot read or write and is barely schooled in her Catholic faith. At the grotto of Masabella, outside the town of Lourdes, she and her sister and a friend have come to collect firewood. It is February 11th, 1858, and Bernadette is about to be swept up by mysterious events that will change her life and the life of her town forever. The town of Lourdes lies cradled in the foothills of the Pyrenees Mountains, near the border between France and Spain. In this region, once called Bigorre, invading armies and empires have come and gone. Of the many legends that haunt these hills, the most enduring are those concerning the Mother of Jesus, the Blessed Virgin Mary. Many believe she was here in spirit at the castle of Lourdes during the 8th century, when Arab invaders refused to surrender to the Christian king Charlemagne. Fearing a long siege, Charlemagne convinced the invaders to lay down their arms before a more sovereign figure, the Virgin Mary. Accepting baptism, the Arab commander took the Christian name of Larus, from which this town of 18,000 gets its name. For the next 1,000 years, the people of Lourdes believed themselves to be under Mary's protection. But then came the French Revolution.
One would say that most of 19th century France was chaotic, and if it wasn't political chaos, sometimes it was economic chaos, sometimes it was social chaos. Time of famine, time of economic hardship, and time of confusion about what was happening to social and political institutions.
By the middle of the 19th century, faith in the Virgin was being challenged by a new faith in science. It was into this world, on January 7, 1844, that Bernadette Subaru was born. She was the oldest child of a miller and his wife. Bernadette's father managed a local mill in Lourdes, but a series of misfortunes, including an accident that left him blind in one eye, finally forced him and his family into the deepest depths of poverty. When Bernadette was still an infant, her mother, for reasons not clearly understood, sent her to live with a woman in a neighboring town for over a year. With her family's deepening poverty, Bernadette was repeatedly forced to live and work away from home.
There's also some evidence that Bernadette was physically abused, beaten, at least by her mother, probably by her father. All these things normally are risk factors, or factors that put people at risk for hallucinations.
At age 14, Bernadette returned to her family's lodgings. By now, a foul-smelling room in what used to be the town jail. She was miserable, suffering from chronic asthma, and dismissed as stupid by her teachers. 2 weeks later, she would shock the Catholic world with her revelations. Winters are harsh in the Pyrenees, and it was no different on February 11, 1858, when Bernadette, her younger sister Toinette, and a friend set out to hunt for firewood along the Gave de Pau River. At the mill stream, Toinette and the friend easily skipped across the shallow water, leaving Bernadette behind near the grotto of Masabel. She hesitated, cold and unsure.
I went back in front of the grotto to take off my shoes. As I began, I heard a noise. I raised my head and looked at the grotto. I saw a lady dressed in white. I thought I was seeing things. I found my rosary. The vision ran the beads of hers through her fingers, but she did not move her lips. When I had finished my rosary, the vision disappeared all of a sudden. Letter from Bernadette, 28th of May, 1861.
Emerging from her trance, Bernadette splashed across the frigid stream and told her companions what she had seen. She was in ecstasy, and said later the freezing water actually felt warm.
In earlier years, I think we tended to impose a false dichotomy on people like Bernadette. We asked the question, are they charlatans or crazy? And only fairly recently have we begun to understand that there is a third possibility with such people, and that, in fact, something called a fantasy-prone personality is now beginning to be understood.
Could Bernadette's vision simply have been the result of an overactive imagination? Or were other forces at work?
Visionaries, like prophets, speak the truth. They claim to see reality and aspects of it which are muted or hidden or distracted from in society or in a religious community.
That night, Bernadette's sister told their parents about the vision at the grotto. Bernadette's mother feared the apparition might be an evil spirit or a soul trapped in purgatory. Bernadette was forbidden to return. She begged her mother to relent. 3 days later, Louise Subaru reluctantly let her daughter return to the grotto. Immediately, Bernadette slipped into a mysterious trance, one so deep that she had to be carried home. She returned to the grotto 4 days later, and once more claimed to see the apparition. This time, it had a message.
I asked her if I should write anything down, but the lady said that wasn't necessary, and inquired if I might come and visit during the next 2 weeks. I answered yes. Letter from Bernadette, August 22nd, 1864.
Soon, hundreds of visitors were crowding the grotto to see the 14-year-old peasant girl commune with a mysterious lady no one else could see.
The credulity of the crowd seems to me to have been remarkable. There must have been a real need to believe, because the crowd had no way to know whether she was a saint or a total fraud. She simply was, as far as anyone might know by looking at her, someone playing a role.
Bernadette certainly would not have been a person to make things up. We know from certainly afterwards she was a very strong-willed person, especially when those who tried to lead her astray, to make certain statements that they wanted to hear, she always called them back to remind them, this is what I said.
It was during the 9th apparition that Bernadette made the discovery that would bring the world's attention to the grotto at Lourdes. Deep in a trance, Bernadette darted back and forth, as if looking for something. She dug in the dirt and tried to drink it like water. She ate leaves off a plant. Hours later, in the muddy hole Bernadette had begun, a trickle of water appeared. The trickle became a stream, and the stream a source of hope that flows to this day.
It's difficult to sort out in a fantasy-prone person which came first, the fantasy or the vision, because they're really interconnected. But I think that however it happened, I feel certain that the spring was there and that she simply cleaned out a clogged spring.
A clogged spring, perhaps. But could these waters perform miracles? In the crowd that day was a skeptical man of medicine named Pierre Romain Dozu. Dr. Dozu suspected a hoax. But with the discovery of the spring, he began to witness things that even his scientific mind could not explain. The spring unearthed by Bernadette Subaru on that cold February day in 1858 was quickly called miraculous. The first person to claim its powers was a 39-year-old woman who dipped her paralyzed hand in the water and immediately regained the use of 2 of her fingers. Later that month, a quarryman, blinded in one eye by a mining accident, also visited the grotto.
I bathed and rebathed my right eye repeatedly in the space of a short time, and after these ablutions, my sight was excellent. Testimony of Louis Bernadette to a commission of inquiry, July 28, 1858.
A baby boy near death was also brought to the grotto by his desperate mother. She plunged her dying son into the icy water for a full 15 minutes. The next day, Dr. Dozu, who had been attending the case, visited the family.
I examined this child 3 days ago. I wrote here, still paralysis of the thighs. I gave him 12 hours to live, and here he is walking. Medical notes of Dr. Dozu, 1858.
At the grotto, local workmen constructed a trough to better fill the hundreds of containers arriving each day with their owners. Within a month of the spring's discovery, Lourdes had become a healing shrine.
Lourdes is by no means the first healing shrine. In fact, there's a long tradition of healing shrines going back even to ancient Egypt. Straight out of the New Testament, the Gospel of John mentions a particular miraculous pool in Jerusalem that had curative powers. Whenever the waters would ripple, people could be healed, and a legend was that the angels stirred the water.
As more people arrived at the grotto, the local authorities fought to keep order. Local businessmen feared the miracle seekers would disrupt business, while many wondered if the events at the grotto might influence the government in Paris to cancel the town's new rail line. By order of the police, the grotto was closed and trespassers arrested. Miracles were suspended. But then a message arrived from the French Emperor Louis Napoleon. His son had fallen ill, but had recovered after his body had been washed with the waters from Lourdes. The barriers came down, the sick poured in. A woman cured of breast cancer, a 2-year-old cured of club feet, a woman with her face half eaten away by a tuberculous skin disease healed with only a red scar to remind her of her former illness. Healings, yes, but evidence of a miracle?
I think the whole matter was summed up pretty well by a French writer, Anatole France, who said that going to Lourdes and seeing all the crutches that supposedly were symbolic of many, many healings, and he said, "What? No wooden legs?" And that's the kind of healing where, let's say, a person with a missing limb would suddenly have that limb restored. Positive evidence. We don't have that. It's always fuzzy, it's always doubtful, equivocal, debatable.
Capturing the spirit of his skeptical age, French author Émile Zola remarked, "Even if I saw a miracle, I couldn't believe it." In reaction to such views, the Church approached the high priests of a rival faith, science, and allowed the creation of a medical board of review.
In 1883, to give a scientific confirmation of these miracles, the Church created the Medical Bureau of Verification for the Cures. This was the first time that the Church had a scientific structure, that the Church gave the Bureau a place here in Lourdes.
In an age when the prestige of medical science was high, the effect of the Medical Bureau at Lourdes has always been to lend scientific legitimacy to what is, in effect, a religious belief, namely that there is supernatural power at Lourdes that can be accessed by ordinary human beings.
Staffed by volunteer doctors, the Medical Bureau closely examined the claims of the thousands of so-called miraculous cures pouring into Lourdes. By the end of the 19th century, the Bureau had certified over 1,500 cures as being of inexplicable origin. For reasons still not understood, at Lourdes, the lame had walked, the blind could see, and the dying had lived. Was it a sign from God, as many proclaim, or a massive example of medical misdiagnosis, as others assert? When Bernadette Subaru first saw her vision, she never said who it was. She called it a carro, meaning that one, in the local dialect spoken in the Pyrenees Mountains.